To me, still the ultimate for cricket, for Australian cricketer, and probably for an English cricketer. In recent years, World Cups, T20 games have filled people's thoughts more in cricket. But to me, as a former player, the Ashes were the contests I wanted to play in. So to be picked in an Ashes side, as I was back in '89, was, yeah, I'd made it. I'd made it as a cricketer. Oh, absolutely, no doubt. And I suppose, in a way, in the era that I played, we felt that we were still the convicts. You know, we still felt that we were the rough and tumble Aussies against the gentlemen of England. Now, I'm sure if you ask, people like Mike Atherton and Darren Gough and Andy Caddick, these sort of guys I played a lot against, they'd say that's absolute rubbish. But to us, we still felt that we were the convicts, we were the real tough guys, and they were the aristocrats, and we had to beat them. To me, it's the hallmark of making the top level in Australian cricket to actually get a baggy green cap, and I still think that's the case today. I suppose as years go on, it's being diluted slightly because there is more games. There's now 3 versions of the game of cricket, but I still think if you ask all the cricketers in Australia, the moment you get a baggy green is the moment you have made it. That you've made the pinnacle of all of those over 1 million cricketers who now play cricket in Australia. You're in the top 11, so you've made the absolute pinnacle, and I think that's something that makes you feel very proud as an individual. And you walk home, and I said, I think everyone treats it differently, and to me that's absolutely fine. Once you get that baggy green cap, that's yours. I've heard about Ian Redpath painting in his baggy green. I've heard about other guys. Bill Laurie used to use it in his pigeon coop. That's fine. Once you've got it, it's yours. You do with it as you see fit. That's the way I think, because you've earned it. You've made it to the top. Well, I received my baggy green cap in a box. Quite a big box. It would have been, hope you can get all that in, sort of that cubed, and it had like 5 shirts with the sponsor's logo on it, the crest of arms. And on top of it was your baggy green. You pull it out, and you put it on, you think, wow, this is great. When I became captain, all I wanted to do was say, don't put the baggy green cap in the box. Put the tracksuit, the shirts, anything else in a box. Give that to the player, but leave the baggy green cap out. And I just think that the captain at the time should present that cap to the player to let him know that he's made it. And that's all I brought into the Australian cricket side back in '94, I think it was, in Pakistan, my first tour. I just think it was a nice way to say, well done. You have made it to the best.
And now it's becoming a bit of a an event.
Yeah, and look, and I've been lucky enough a number of times to be asked to present cricketers of today as a past captain. And look, I think it's good, don't get me wrong, but I don't think we need to make it any bigger. I think maybe every captain feels now they've got to do something different to add their mark to the baggy green cap. I don't think that's the case. I really don't, and I didn't intend that when I actually presented the first one. It might have even been to someone like Colin Miller, who debuted in '94. I'm not even sure who the first person was I gave a baggy green cap to. It was never intended to sort of set the baggy green on some sort of course. The baggy green cap's got nothing to do with me or even Sir Donald Bradman. It is something that signifies an Australian cricketer, and all I want every cricketer to realise is that's it. Once you get it, and it doesn't really matter how you get it, you're the best. You're the best of the best in Australian cricket. That's all I wanted to make sure that the player who gets that cap understands. Oh, terrific memories of that first test. Headingley in '89. As I said, I wasn't even sure I was going to be in the team. I'd only played 2 tests in Australia. Bob Simpson, Border and the selector stuck with me. So myself and Jeff Marsh opened the batting. I think we got put in. Overcast skies, pitch wasn't super hard. We all thought it was going to do plenty, and I was nervous, and it didn't do a lot. I tell people it did plenty. It didn't do a lot. It didn't do anywhere near as much as everyone thought it was going to. On a rain-shortened day, I think I was 96 not out, stumps, and David Gower dropped me in the gully on about 89.
How do you cope that night?
Oh, I was a wreck. My mother and father had just arrived in England. for the game. I had dinner with them, and that was the worst thing I could have done because they were worse than me. Oh, they were worried about how I was going to get 4 and whether I was going to sleep or not. And by the time I'd left them that night, I was an absolute wreck.
Do you sleep?
Normally, I'm pretty good. I didn't sleep that well that night. Got to the ground the next day, 96 not out, and broke my bat off a full toss from Philip de Freitas in the first over. Hit the bottom of my bat, snapped my bat, and I thought, oh no, it's not going to happen. End up fine leg glance off Derek Pringle for 4. So I got my first Test century, and that was to me just wow. Like here I am in my 3rd Test, first in England, and I've got 100, and all of a sudden, not so much the weight of the world comes off your shoulders. It's almost like, wow, yeah, I've got over the first hurdle. I've got a baggy green. I've got it on Ashes tour, and now I've made 100. It's almost a realisation that, gee, I can play. Yeah. I think I might be able to play this game. So in that one innings, you go from not sure whether you're good enough to, hey, I might be able to cut it at this level.
So it's life changing.
It is. It's career changing, and it can sometimes be, a little bit of luck, grab an opportunity, be picked when. Sometimes you don't think you're going to be picked, and it would have been easy, I think, for the selectors to go back to Boone and Marsh as the opening combination and leave me out, and I'm sure they would have talked about that at the time, but they stuck with me, and fortunately for me, it was career changing. As I said, when I think back to the start of the series where I wasn't sure whether I was going to be good enough, and after making 200 in a Test, all of a sudden now I'm thinking I'm this really, really good player. That's how quickly it can change. In 4 Test matches, I now think I'm a really good player. Yeah. That's how much my confidence has lifted. And I got out-stumped off Nick Cook for 219. I tried to hit him over extra cover. I'd never played that shot in my life as a cricketer. And I thought, now I'm going to do something I've never done before, not even in the nets. I walked off, and I remember AB walked up to me, sitting in the change room, feeling obviously very proud of myself. The phone rings. I go and the room attendant walks up to me and says, "It's a phone call for you." I'm thinking, in the change rooms. I went. It was my best mate, Jack. He got through. I don't know how he got through. He told me he read one of the boards on the advertising boards around the ground and got a number for Nottingham. He rang up that, said, "How do I get the number for Trent Bridge?" Got through there, got through to the and then I spoke to him. He said, "Mate, well done, I've been watching it." So, but my best mate calls me in the change room. Then I sit down and AB walks up to me and says, "Mate, well played, great innings, blah, 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 blah." And he said, "You're a bloody idiot." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, he said, "We're going to bat for a lot longer, yet you could have made 300. You could have made an Ashes 300. And he was right. Yeah. He was dead right. Oh, the captaincy, I don't think weighed heavily on me, no. I knew I was a candidate for the job, being vice captain, and I knew I was probably the front runner. Yeah. But there was also Booney was still playing, Heels, Steve Waugh, Mark Waugh was in the team, Warney was in the team. We had a very good cricket side by 1994. So there was other candidates. When I was announced captain, I was quite excited about it, to be honest. I didn't feel like it was a weight on my shoulders, but I really was looking forward to the challenge of it, I think. I think one thing that I didn't do probably well enough in my time as captain is I didn't spend enough time about my own game, worrying about my own game. Yeah. But I've always loved sort of watching and analysing the game and watching other people's games. So I think in terms of getting the balance right, I think sometimes I spent too much time worrying about other issues rather than my own play. And it started, my first Test as captain, I made a pair.
1997 Ashes, interesting time for you in England because you were close to losing your spot.
Yeah.
Now, the Melbourne Age, I read this the other day. They even ran a competition. Are you aware of this?
There was also a thing going on.
To see how many runs you'd make, and people said, under 10.
They were right. I think I only made 7 in the first innings.
But how do you cope with that scrutiny back then? How did you? Were you aware of it?
Absolutely. You're aware of it, big time. I tried to be as open as I could be with the team and the media, but there's only one way to get over it, and that's to make some runs. And it just was a weird time for me. Everyone had an idea of what was wrong with me. Get my eyes tested. Is everything okay at home? And I kept saying, yeah, that's fine. There's no peripheral issue here that is causing me to play badly. I just can't make a run. The confidence was gone. Sure, it fell away big time because I was finding ways of getting out. Run out. I got bowled in Johannesburg when I got 16 in Johannesburg in a test match. Felt really good. Got one that kept a bit low, hit the bottom of the bat and went back onto the stumps. I was just starting to find ways of getting out. And you start to think that the cricketing gods are almost against you. In England, I went over there and all of a sudden my form, I think, was putting the team under pressure. And you're aware of that. No doubt you're aware of that. And then Edgbaston, first day, first test, we bowled out for 130. We only made 130 because Warney made 50 at the end. We could have been bowled out for under 100. I nicked one to second slip, out for 7, I think I was. And we were out for 130 and they make 400 and plenty. And then I'm starting to think, well, I've really got to start doing something about this. Either if I don't make some runs, I've got to seriously consider whether I'm better off out of the team. And I was quite honest about that at the time with the players. So I think they were aware of it. I was aware of it. And in a way, probably getting to that, I suppose, that flaw in my game, that cellar in my game, that you actually start turning around and think, well, okay, if it ends here today, it ends. That's it. And you actually get to that stage where you think, oh, well, so be it. And I think once I got there, I started to realise that, it's just a game. Get out there and just enjoy it. And I think England, because they were so far in front in that game, actually went out there to try and bowl me out, really try and get me out. And they didn't bowl that well to me in the second innings. I think I made 50 in about 60 balls in the second innings of that game. And I think I scored 45 of them on the leg side because they bowled too straight to me. It's the only bloody shot I had. All my other shots weren't working. And they were bowling on my hip. So before I knew it, I had 50 and then ground my way to 100. And even though we lost the test, I got that story off the page for a moment. I had quite a bit to do with John. He loved cricket, still does today. And when I made my 300 in Pakistan, he rang me up, rang the Pearl Intercontinental Hotel in downtown Peshawar to get through to me in the morning of the third day's play. So absolute, as I said to him years ago, he's a cricket tragic. He loves it. I think John's very supportive of all Australian cricketers. But because I suppose I was the captain at the time that he was the Prime Minister, I got to know him very well. There's no doubt that there was a difference in the way England and Australia played the cricket. For example, in an Ashes series, if it was 5 test matches or 6 test matches, Australian sides that I play in would think, okay, if 5 test match series, you win 3, you win the series. If it's 6 test match series, you might have to win 4, but 3 it's going to be hard to beat. You're probably expecting weather to play a part somewhere. So we're always thinking about winning 3 tests, if not 4 in a series. I think England started a lot of series in the 90s, and I don't know if they still do today, thinking 5 test matches, if we win 2, we'll win the series. Now, I think that's straight away, you're working on, A, you've got to draw some test matches, or B, you're hoping some weather's going to come in and help you out. So I think our attitude towards the game was more aggressive. That we were thinking, okay, if we play well aggressively for 5 test matches and win 3, you can afford to lose 2 because you still win the series.
Was it win at all costs for you, or did entertaining come into it?
Neither. I don't think it was win at all costs. I don't believe that. As I said, I think at the end of the day, it is a game. Rick McCosker said to me many years ago that it's more than a game once you start playing at the top level, and it is, because it does become your livelihood, and you don't just want to walk away and say, oh, it's just a game. You can't throw it away like that. But you've got to try and think of it as just a game, because you'll play better. You will play better if you think it's just a game. So it certainly wasn't, but it certainly shouldn't be win at all costs, because at the end of the day, life will go on, whether you win or lose an Ashes series or win or lose one game. So entertainment was part of it, but I think, once again, I didn't play as an entertainer. I don't think I was an overly entertaining cricketer. I think they left me alone a fair bit. I think in the verbal side, we were definitely stronger than England were in my time. And maybe that's changed a bit these days, I don't know. But I think we were, people like the Merv Hugheses, the McGraths, the Warnes, they can handle themselves on the field with the ball, but also verbally.
Did that rattle the English, sort of the way they played their cricket? Do you think that?
I think it rattled the odd individual.
Yeah.
I don't think it rattled a lot of their players, and I don't think it does. And I've always thought that sledging, to me, there's more talk said about sledging than actually goes on.
Yeah.
And I think it's a story that people love to hear about sledging when it's really nowhere near as bad.
Yeah.
More often than not, it's nowhere near as bad as people think it is.
It's worse in park cricket.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I always thought sledging was worse in Sheffield Shield cricket
Yeah.
when I played
Yeah.
than it was in Test matches.
So did Chappelle said so.
Yeah. I can't remember. I really cannot remember being sledged in international cricket.
Wow.
But I wasn't a big sledger, full stop. Occasionally, and once again in a few grade games, I would lose it at an opposing captain, only because I thought he was playing the game the wrong way.
Yeah.
But no, I thought it was a very much overrated part of the game, and still is today. I don't think there's a lot of challenge for the Ashes rivalry. It's a challenge for Test match cricket. One thing that I think Ashes cricket will survive for many years, but I think, to me, I'd like to see Test match cricket survive for many years. I don't think people just want to see Ashes cricket as that's the only cricket that we see that's not limited over.
Yeah.
That the only real Test cricket these days is Ashes cricket. It's nice to have good Test cricket going on, and eventually you've got this Ashes cricket, which is where cricket started. You know, the cricket that a lot of people understand started was the Ashes Test matches. So I think that will mean that Ashes cricket will survive for many years to come. But the biggest challenge is to make sure that the Test cricket around it is also very good. I often say that cricket ruined my life. I'd be a damn good surveyor. I'm actually a qualified surveyor by trade. Yeah. I spent 5 years at New South Wales University, just out here. Graduated in '88 and played cricket ever since. Cricket probably stopped me from pegging out houses, putting in roads, doing all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And I'm very grateful for that, in all honesty. Yeah. But I don't know, I'd probably be, as I said, live in the country areas somewhere of New South Wales, and I'd be pegging out houses.
Good stuff.